I'm Di, and today I am bringing you my March wrap-up. In March, I read 21 things, 6 of them were novels, and 15 of them were manga. So I will only be wrapping up the novels in this video. The mangas I will be wrapping up separately, so let's get started. I did 3 buddy reads during the month, the first of which were with Lee from TotalLee.net. We are reading the Chronicles of Narnia in chronological order. So we read The Magician's Nephew last month, and this month we read The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. I'm sure you all know what this one is about. This is the Pevensie children's first visit to Narnia. This was very much like the TV adaptations that I've seen. I've seen a cartoon version, and I've seen the movie that was out several years ago. And so there wasn't really anything too surprising about it. It was an interesting read, and I ended up giving this one 4 stars. Then we continued with the third one, which is The Horse and His Boy. This one, I had no idea what it was about going in, so I was pleasantly surprised when I started. This one follows a boy named Shasta, and he finds out one night that the man he thought was his father is actually not his father. And in the same night, he meets a Narnian horse who he names Bree, and they decide that they are going to run away together and go to Narnia. I really enjoyed their journey and the characters that they met. This had a very Arabian feel to it, like Arabian Nights type of setting. And I was just very pleasantly surprised by how much I enjoyed this installment. I gave this installment also 4 stars. Then I continued my buddy read with Raul from Latin Lector. We've been buddy reading the Benny Imura series, or Rot and Ruin, for the last 5 or 6 months. I think we started the first one last October, which is Rot and Ruin. In March we read the 3rd installment, which was Flesh and Bone. I can't really tell you too much about it because I don't want to spoil it, but the series takes place in a post-apocalyptic world where when you die, you reanimate into a zombie. Nobody knows why or how it happens. It just started happening one night. And our main character, Benny, is kind of thrown into learning how to become a zombie hunter from his brother, who is very well known in the trade. Now, I don't usually read any zombie books or watch any of the TV shows that have zombies in them, but I have been blown away by this series, and I'm so glad that I've been buddy reading it with Raul, because this 3rd installment started off with a bang, and it was so nice to have him just tweeting back and forth about, oh my gosh, what just happened, and getting all of the excitement off my chest. This series has just been great from the start. This installment was no different. However, one of our main characters grated on my nerves. You could tell when she was having conversations with Benny that she was trying to corner him into saying something, and she started doing that in the 2nd installment, but she only did it one time, so it wasn't too bad. In this installment, it happened way more, and it just got really irritating. If you follow me on Goodreads, you probably know what I'm talking about, because I did post a couple times a status update regarding this. That is why I had to take off a half a star on the rating for this book. So instead of it being a 5-star read like the prior 2, this one got 4.5 stars. That's not to say that the book wasn't good, it's just the irritation factor took away from the enjoyment for me. But the book was still very good, and I highly recommend you check out this series. Raul and I will be continuing on with our buddy read of this series with the final installment in May. Then I participated in the month-long readathon, which was March Mystery Madness, where we were reading mystery novels. I read 3 books towards that readathon. So the first of those was The Sisters Grimm, The Unusual Suspects. This is volume 2 in the series. This series follows 2 girls, Sabrina and Daphne, whose parents disappear. They end up going to live with their long-lost Granny Relda, who they thought was dead. Granny Relda lives in Fairyport Landing, and it's kind of like Storybrooke if you watched the TV show Once Upon a Time. Granny Relda tells them that they are descendants of the Brothers Grimm, and the family trade is to be fairy tale detectives. And so in each installment there is a mystery to unravel. This is a middle grade series, and so it's very easy to read, and it was pretty quick. It has illustrations inside, and this one in particular had a really scary one. I'll see if I can find, oh, there it is. There you go. Kind of creepy. But I am really enjoying this series, and I will definitely be continuing on with it. I gave this installment also 4 stars. Then I read The Mysterious Affair at Styles by Agatha Christie. This is the first Poirot mystery, and I had only previously read one Agatha Christie book before this one, and it was And Then There Were None, and I read it several years ago. And to tell you the truth, I can't even remember who the killer is in that one, but it was likable enough that I had told myself at that time that I wanted to continue reading Agatha Christie novels, and I just hadn't gotten around to it until now. Thanks to the readathon, I was able to do so, as one of the challenges was to read an Agatha Christie novel or an Edgar Allan Poe short story, and so I chose this one. I borrowed it from Hoopla, which is a service that my library offers, so I had an ebook copy and an audiobook copy. This novel is a murder mystery novel, and I was surprised to find out that it wasn't narrated by Poirot. I thought, this is a Poirot novel, it's going to be narrated by Poirot, and it wasn't. It's narrated by another character named Hastings, and I actually found Hastings a little bit irritating. But Poirot was very interesting. I listened to a good portion of this on audiobook, and there are several versions out there, and I was fortunate enough to pick up on my first try one that clearly did the accents, but I was still able to understand what he was saying when he was delivering Poirot's lines. I was messaging Lee from Total Lee, who I've been buddy reading the Narnia books with, because she read this book last year, and she told me, okay, write down who you think the killer is as soon as you think you have a solid suspect, and then see if you're right at the end. Well, I didn't really have a solid suspect, but I did have a thought about who it might be, just from some of the early clues. I think it was by chapter 7. I still hadn't thought about anybody else being the possible killer. And then you get to the end and find out who the killer was, and it's somebody completely different. Like, I kind of felt like we were led to believe, oh yeah, it couldn't have possibly been this person. And then all of a sudden it is this person. It's like, what? Nonetheless, I did enjoy this, and I look forward to reading more of the Poirot novels, as well as getting into the Miss Marple series, which is the other series. I ended up giving this book 3.5 stars. The final book I read in the month was The Trouble with Magic, and this is the first book in the Bewitching Mystery series by Madeline Alt. This follows our main character Maggie, and she literally falls into her new job at the beginning of this book. She is running late for her actual job, and it's raining really hard. She's having car trouble, ducks into a stairwell in order to escape the rain, and falls into this shop. On the spot, the proprietor of the shop, her name is Felicity, she offers her a job and also tells her that she's a witch. Well, needless to say, Maggie finally gets to her job that morning and is subsequently fired, so she takes Felicity up on the job offer. On her very first day at work, Felicity gets called away and finds that her sister has been murdered. Felicity becomes the prime suspect in her sister's murder. Even though Maggie has just started working for Felicity, she really doesn't think that Felicity could possibly be the murderer. So she decides to do some amateur sleuthing on her own to find out who actually killed Felicity's sister. I have had this series on my to-read list for a very long time, and as you can tell from the series name, A Bewitching Mystery, I expected it to have some witchiness in it. This hardly had any. You kind of just get a little taste of it. And I can understand why, it being the first book and you are getting to know your characters. So I'm hoping that in subsequent installments that there is more supernatural to it than murder mystery. But I do enjoy myself a good murder mystery, and again, I could not tell who the killer was when it was finally revealed. I do own the next 4 or 5 books in the series, as I have been collecting it. The reason it took me so long to start this one is because I have not been able to find a copy of this first book, so I ended up borrowing it from the library. I did end up enjoying it quite a bit, and I gave it 4 stars. So those are all the novels that I read in the month of March. Let me know if you've read any of these books in the comments below, or if you participated in March Mystery Madness. I hope you are all doing great, and until next time, take care and smile always. Bye.